You mentioned before, even today, there's still certain lessons that you got that you still apply or practice now from your time there. I'm curious, what were some of the big takeaways? I'm sure there were many, but during your time there, learning and growing as you were working with other people who were, innovating on the industry as well.
I think everyone at ILM, they carried themselves with such integrity, and there was a mutual respect, and that alone really solidified this idea that you could do anything, and that idea, there was never this thought that you couldn't do something. It was something that everyone was like, okay, that's kind of crazy and that's really hard. We don't know how we're going to do this, but okay, we're going to figure it out. And it was, if it was from an R&D perspective, if it was from a really difficult, challenging show that it just, for whatever reason, just was having a hard time finishing, everyone, it was, okay, we're all in this together. We're all going to put our heads together. We're going to figure out how to do this. And it was such an incredible teamwork there that I think just fundamentally that idea carries with me every step of the way and every day that I approach how business is done. It's like, okay, there's a problem. We're going to solve it. And not any one person can do it alone in this business. It takes a team of people. And I think I learned that core of that from ILM, because that's what everyone was always about there. It wasn't about any one person.
I love that. More for anyone who's not familiar with all the roles in visual effects, as you moved more into a VFX producer role, can you talk a little bit about what that typically involves? Obviously, looking at the script treatment, breaking that down, doing budgets, things like that. But yeah, just what usually you would expect from someone who's in a visual effects producer role.
So I became a visual effects producer sort of not through the traditional routes of being a coordinator in the facility. There's usually a natural progression of you start off as a PA and then a coordinator, and there's a lot of different, levels now of PM, line producer, PM, and then a producer. I think just being on set and being around how you actually execute on the front end and how that will affect the back end. I was always conscious of the part of my job was to track the shots, and was it tracking to what we had budgeted versus what's new? And so I was able to really experience that part of it, and interacting with the clients a lot. So that gave me that experience of how to say things, when to say them, what to say, because it's a very unique relationship that you build up with the client. And so all of that on-set interaction with the clients allowed me to get that experience to, when I did jump into the producer role, that I was more, I think, able to handle the difficult and complex conversations that went with that because of my experience of watching on set. Filmmakers, you're not always able to achieve what they want, and then not just in a visual effects capacity, but it happens all the time. They're faced with decisions of like, okay, this isn't working. The set doesn't look like we thought it would, and so you're constantly saying, okay, well, we can do this, we can do that. And because I was able to see that, I took that back with me to the facility. And those are always the questions that I have as a producer, in terms of trying to appease the client, but also at the same time, looking at out for the best interests of what's happening at the facility. Learning like shot progression and every department that a shot goes through when you're on the facility side, that I sort of peripherally knew, even though, I was out on location. But I had been a PA at ILM, so I watched that shot progression. So I built upon everything that I learned. And so you sort of I was able to get an overall sense of how things are done on location, how you prep, shoot, and then how all of that combines to how you plan post, and then the progression of that. And I think you build on your knowledge and your experience, and over time things change, a little bit, and how work gets done, and how new software tools allow you to do things faster, and your overlapping of departments, and how not everything is linear, when you go into a studio, and how things are built as far as a schedule. So you just take all of those things that you learn and combine them, and I think that's what makes a really well-rounded producer.
I love that. That's really cool. And thank you for sharing.